I'm Ernst van den Hemel, chairman of the foundation Stichting de Meent. And that sounds kind of weird because, as you all might know, the plan is to, very simply, this plan can be explained in one sentence, which is always very nice. Right? We want to buy a cultural space with thousands of people and then run it democratically. That's basically the plan. That's what we're going for. That's what we want to do. And we think it's feasible. We think it's a good thing to do right now. Yet, I am talking to you here as the chairman of the foundation that tries to make this happen. And this is, I think, one of the first problems that we encountered. If you want to buy cultural space and run it democratically, it's not that easy. The basic ways in which you can buy space is so much geared towards private capital, so much geared towards a sort of notion of a company, or it's so much geared towards being dependent on government, that there is, in fact, quite a lot of obstacles that you need to surmount before you can actually do what we want to do, buy a place with thousands of people. So this plan that we have to buy this ridiculously small house with a ridiculously large group of people is also an experiment, and it's also a sort of struggle to create a space, not just literally, not just physically, but also juridically, economically, and socially. Because at this moment in time, I think it's, well, quite annoying actually, that people that hold cultural space and experiments that can be held in them, and democracy for that matter, in high esteem, if you feel a little bit like me, then, I don't know, yeah, sometimes I have the feeling that you're in trouble. So I was thinking, and lots of people I think with me, that we were kind of in need of a different stance, towards these times in which, well, not only funding but also appreciation for cultural space is dwindling. And perhaps it is a good time to not to appeal to government for less budget cuts, or on the other hand, not to do precisely what the government wants, which is try your luck on the free market by catering to as large an audience as possible to try to make a profit. Now it's time to devise perhaps another way to interact with cultural space. And the idea that was starting to ripen and that we want to develop, not just me as chairman of this very problematic foundation, but with everybody who's interested in this project, is that we want to find a third position between either private ownership and the logic of the free market on the one hand, and dependence on subsidies and funding from a government that is almost as fickle and unreliable as the free market nowadays. So what do you do then? You decide we want to purchase a space with as large a group of people as possible and run it democratically. You need to have a sort of legal body, a sort of legal figure with which you can buy property. And that's where, already there, in the very foundations of this project, that's where the interesting stuff begins to happen. We had a discussion with the notary about our project. We said, well, we want to create a platform in which we can buy property with thousands of people. And the notary was this guy, you know, pleat jacket and very used to quite dull juridical stuff. He raised his eyebrows and he said, hang on, you want to buy property with thousands of people? We said, yeah, basically. So then we started to work upon how can you do that? Well, you can start a foundation, but then you need a board. You need a chairman of the board. You need all sorts of, well, structures that are basically not egalitarian and democratic. So you need to, what we're trying to do, you need to reconstruct this legal framework with which it is possible to buy property in a way that you can run it, you can own it with as large a group of people as possible. So you need to make use of existing structures and try to stretch them out and try to reinterpret them and try to apply them in ways that are, as we've come to realize, very unusual. And the fact that it is unusual, the fact that shared property is, in a juridical sense, a very difficult thing to think about, is in fact one of the main reasons why I think this project is so important. Now, secondly, we want to run it democratically. We propose that we buy a space with as large a group of people as possible and then run it democratically. This also has to do with that I don't think a fruitful attitude nowadays is to say protect culture, as if cultural space is a sort of reservation from a time long since forgotten, that we need to keep the hordes of barbarians out so that we can have this space that we can protect from the evil outside world. Now, this project is not a conservationist, a conservative project, in my opinion. It's not geared towards guarding what's already there. It's a step forward, it's a way of appropriating space, and it's a way of creating something new. And therefore, we propose to run it democratically. Imagine we succeed, because today is only the beginning of this project. We will continue this project for months on end, trying to campaign, trying to get people to donate, to invest, slip of the tongue there. And say we succeed. All of us actually succeed in buying a cultural space. In the description of the project that you can read on our website, there's very great care that we don't define what this space is going to be. We don't define it as an atelier, we don't define it as a concert space. No, it's just a cultural space in which the people that think that shared property is important can decide what's going to happen there. Right? So it's not even filled in yet. It's not an identity yet in the sense that it is a conservative, already existing, perhaps endangered form of cultural practice. No, we want to show it is time to take matters into our own hand, to create a space, and then decide democratically what we want to do with it. But it's also a research project. Why is it so difficult to create this? What are the elements that block collective ownership from actually being a viable option nowadays? Right. So therefore we've invited speakers every Sunday from now on to deepen this question a little bit. To investigate in what ways rules of ownership, rules of software, rules of urban renewal, and rules of human interaction, right, either preclude or make possible new ways of interacting with space that doesn't basically leave us either sort of at the hands of a fickle market or at the hands of an equally fickle government. When you invest, you haven't just, given some charity to a cultural space. No, you've invested in a sort of form of shared property. So you become co-owner. That is to say, everybody who has invested in this cultural space receives a certificate of ownership. You get placed on the email list and you get invited for the first assembly of co-owners that will decide democratically and based on the consensus model what we're going to do. Now, and in this act of reclaiming, in this act of trying to use existing forms to make shared ownership possible, we will hit a lot of obstacles. We'll hit a lot of paradoxes and we'll hit a lot of challenges. But part of this project is to continue investigating these paradoxes, these obstacles and these problems. So today is not the end of this project, or today is not the high moment of this project. If it would be, we would be in trouble because we need at least 100 times the people that are here today. Right. But it is a starting point. So we're going to continue our crowdfunding campaign. We're going to continue to invite people to invest, to think with us, to contribute articles and thoughts to our website. And in order to do that, well, we're just going to continue. We would need your help, not just financially, but also in sort of an engagement kind of way, and also in a cognitive kind of way. We need to think anew about cultural space and about shared ownership and democracy, in my opinion, at this current time.